then find my notes, find my information, figure out everything that's going on. So definitely like a turkey, I'm crying foul. So um,
And
yeah,
all this
so
while being in Baltimore.
exactly, which I don't mean to ruffle anybody's feathers. Um, yes, happy after turkey to everybody, and post tryptophan, or what is it?
Tryptophan.
The Yeah, tryptophan, close enough. It's good to see everybody on here. I just want to give you a couple of tech turkey tips today, unless you've been living under a rock. And I'm not talking Dwayne Johnson. It is the biggest shopping day of the year. The deals are out there. And that's where I did my homework last night to help find you all the different tech goodies. I saw iPads under 250, Apple Watches under 200, even the Samsung flip phone under 800 on sale, which is pretty awesome there. Couple of interesting notes to point out. Google is going to make it easier for you to not get lost when you travel on Google Maps. But where Google giveth, they also taketh away. Where next year on Chrome, they're going to start limiting ad blockers. So starting next June, so you may want to switch over to different browsers at that point. Amazon is going to start selling Hyundai cars next year directly on their sites. If you guys want to rack up your Amazon points, that's a great way to do it. And for those also in terms of AI, Sam Altman is now back in OpenAI. Initially, he was fired. Then it was Microsoft drama. Then he went back again. So that should be interesting as well. Samsung Galaxy, if you're running those phones and you have updates, sometimes they may have screen burn in. So watch out for that. Make sure that your screen doesn't burn in with your different characters, and make sure you use your phone in that respect. So that's basically about it. I don't even have the Hebrew haha this week. We'll have to save that one for next week. But also just to make you aware, Janine, guess who decided to get your monitor for Hanukkah? I did yesterday. So you got to lead by example. So even I went shopping for the holiday season. So anyway.
Well, happy Hanukkah, and I'm glad, you know what, you got a beautiful monitor. I happen to love mine, and it does everything I need it to do. And Sean has a question, I think. Go ahead, Sean.
Actually, this question comes from the chat from Miss Shalene. What is screen burn-in, Mr. Matt?
Okay, screen burn-in is when your phone doesn't have any SPF 50. But no, basically what it is that back in the old day, back in the 80s, when Miami Vice was on TV, and Marty McFly still went Back to the Future.
Yes.
You have what's known as the characters that stay on the screen. So let's say your screen just sits there, and it sits there for hours and hours and hours. Those same characters can be on the screen, and then when you go move it, those characters are still there. So it basically like burns in the same characters and the screen doesn't move. For example, you'll see that on ATMs. Back in the old day when you had arcade games, you see like the Pac-Man computer machines that would have the same screen burning. So it'll be a black screen, and you see ghost images of what you would sit there and see, even if you're moving the screen. That's what example of the screen burn-in is. And that's something you don't want, because that's basically permanent damage on the screen from having it just sit there. So the phone could either lock or have a screensaver. That's what something could do to help prevent having that problem occur.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And if you do have any questions, you can pop them in the chat. Sean's watching the chat, and he will make sure that we get that question answered. And does anybody else have any questions for Matt before he takes off and finishes his packing to go?
Yeah. It was, again, great seeing you guys. My information is in the chat. If you want help shopping today, or even on Monday, because, again, Monday, Cyber Monday, I'm more than happy to help out. It's good seeing all you guys, and have a great weekend, and happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us, Matt, and good luck and safe travels as you move on. And
all right, thanks.
I wanted to follow up with what he was saying about Google Maps. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but down here in Colorado, we are very careful about what we download, because we are in mountains, we have treacherous roadsides, we have weather that can change in a dime. And I wanted to let you know about an app that we use, not only here in the mountains, but also out in the deserts. When you start moving into things that Google Maps will call it a road, and other normal people will call it a wash. Okay. Like it's just a washed area, but yet it's because it's called a lane or a road or a street, Google Maps will label it as such. And you can end up being out in the desert, stuck in a ditch somewhere because the road literally just stops. And so I recommend for those of you when you're traveling, if you're in big metropolitan areas, Google Maps is totally fine. But when you start getting into areas that are a little bit more rural and you go down that second gravel road, which I do frequently and often, you want to use Waze, WAZE.com. That is the one that's a lot more authentic. My realtors out in the desert, Joshua Tree, 29 Palms area, as well as out in the backwoods of Colorado, recommend that you use Waze, that it actually lets you know what the roads are like. So just a little tip there for those who are looking for something other than Google Maps, because we've all seen the stories and heard the situations of what happens with that sometimes. Okay, so that will help you in that area, Anna. So Margaret, hi, welcome to Open Friday Coffee, and thank you for joining us today. How can we help you?
Oh, well, I wanted to say thank you for hosting. This is,
Yeah.
I'm very interested to learn more. This is my first time here, and thank you to Shailene for the referral. So a little bit about me. I am the owner and CEO of Evolve Coaching, and I'm a women's life empowerment and grief coach. So my motto is to empower women to feel so worthy that they can't help but live a life of joy and passion. So I ideally work with women who have gone through grief and trauma and help them move forward through support and coaching. I also do vision boards, and on the side, I also read tarot and oracle cards, and I'm deep into crystals and manifesting. And I am the co-founder of Unshakable Me, which is a summer camp for teenage girls where the focus is to build up their self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence, all in a really safe environment where they get to explore who they are. And it's a lot of fun. We just started that this year.
Thank
So
you.
yeah,
Thank you
that's
for
a little
that
bit about
kind of
me.
No, thank you for the work that you do with teenage girls. And it would help us if you could move your microphone closer to you or
Oh
speak a
my
little louder.
goodness, this microphone's been giving me a hard time. I need one. It's
No,
going on my
it's
Christmas
okay.
list.
It's okay.
There
It's
we
just
go.
sometimes when you would dip your head, we can't hear you as well.
Mm,
So
okay.
I want to hear every word. So, I'm going to say, hey, I want to hear what you have to say. So when it comes to your Oracle, is it Oracle cards or tarot cards that you read?
Both.
You
I
do
read
both.
both.
Okay. And
Mhm.
so that always is helpful, and that you enjoy crystals. So just depends on what kind of medicine people use.
Mhm.
That's whether you consider yourself earth medicine, air medicine, that sort of thing. Just like to kind of get a bead on that. The other thing that I'm interested in is your grief counseling. So can you share with us a little bit about what kind of either training that you've had or how you came to that so that we can
Mhm.
give you better referrals?
Sure. So I do grief coaching, not counseling. So it is different. I come at it from approaching as a life coach. So I'm certified as a life coach through Erickson International, and I've received my mastery in coaching. And the grief side of that for me actually came out of a personal journey. Um, 15 years ago, I lost my son when he was 3 days old. He was the twin to my daughter. And that sort of set me into the grief sphere. And then in 2021, I did a TED Talk around grief. And I honestly never thought I would end up working in grief. It's not something people go running towards going, ooh, let's go work in grief, because it's a
Mm,
really heavy, heavy topic. And I tend to be extremely empathic. So I thought it would be too hard and I would end up taking on too much. But what I found is it's actually one of the most rewarding things that I can do. And the women that I've worked with, it's incredible to watch them transform over a 3, 6, 9 month journey, where we're building them back up and helping them re-identify who they are, especially if they've lost a partner, a spouse, a child. Their identity is shattered. And so trying that, grief is a really lonely journey. So as a coach, my job is to support them, ask the tough questions, let them really dig into who they are, reconnect with their values, what's important to them.
mhm.
And a lot of the time when we start doing that, we start identifying triggers and we figure out where did that come from. So we end up
Sure.
back in childhood, which was really the impetus for starting the camps for the girls, because now my daughter is 15, and it's nice to be able to provide an avenue for her to be building up her own self-confidence and self-worth too. So yeah, it's really
Thank you.
extremely rewarding. And I am also trained in profound impact which is all around emotional
I'm sorry. Can you stop
transcendence.
it just a minute?
Sorry.
You're also
Yep.
trained in what? Profound what?
Profound impact coaching. I
Okay.
got that certification last year.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Mhm.
Good job.
Thank you.
It's always a journey, right? No matter what you're
Mhm.
doing, you're always adding to your toolbox. It's like
Mhm.
you add a skill set and all that. But back to your grief coaching, you did a TED Talk. Would you please put that link in the chat for us? We'd love to
Sure.
have that. Yeah. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
I will go find that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
because then anybody who's interested in what Margaret has to offer, you can go to the TED Talk and then do put your contact information into the chat for us. Thank you so much. Okay,
Okay,
and
thanks.
good morning, Shailene and Jeff. So Shailene, thank you so much for inviting your friends to join us. How are you doing today? And is there anything we can do for you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I also, Janine, got over COVID. I read your, I was reading your newsletter, your email, and I was like, oh, I know what that's like. Me, 2 teenage daughters, and 3 dogs in one bed for a week. Yeah, that was awesome. And anyone who has dogs, Margaret, you know for sure that if you have a dog and you're sick, they want to lie on top of you. My dogs are not small dogs, so it was, it was 2 weeks of joy. I just a couple of things. Wendy, I just wanted you to know that I actually used to ride competitively dressage. That's so cool. Western, English, dressage, hunter classes, barrels, Prince Philip games. I don't know if you have that in the States. I'm going to just add one more quick thing. There's a great app called What 3 Words. Have you guys heard of that app?
No.
This is no matter where you are in the entire world. If you get lost, you can, out here, I have a lot of trails and stuff. We have like 500 kilometers. I don't know what that is in miles of these trails in the middle of nowhere. But if you get lost, if anything ever happens, you can, on this app, every place in the world has a 3 meter by 3 meter word allocated to it. Right. So it has these 3 words that tell anyone. So if you were to call 911, you're saying, these are my 3 words. They know exactly where you are within, say, 9 feet by 9 feet. They know exactly where you are. So if you ever get lost, I thought of that because you were talking about Waze. It's the best app to have. So I put it in the chat because it's something good to have. The whole entire world. Like if you were to look it up now, you'd have 3 words exactly where you're sitting. Otherwise, no, I'm just glad Margaret made it. I've invited a few other people, but you know what? I don't know if they got the link. So I sent them the link. I expect them to be here next week.
Okay.
Margaret's going to do great here. And, but I don't think Jeff, what do I need? Do I need something? Jeff's like my friend. So what do I need? Jeff will tell me if I need some. Jeff's like, Shailene, this is what you need. But I think I'm good. Jeff. Oh man, where's my son? Where's my card?
I'll see you're on mute and I'll raise you a sunrise from Crystal.
Crystal's our other islander. We have Rich Beyer, who is on Manhattan, and then we go all the way out to Maui, and Crystal usually joins us when it's not Thanksgiving Day weekend. Just a second, Jeff. Yes, Sean, what can we do for you?
This actually relates to Jeff, so conveniently enough, we've had a request for the headset you use, and I'm actually currently looking on Amazon, and Hunter Spider has 18 different types now, and then we also have a whole host of other ones that have very similar model to yours. Can you shoot me the exact link for the model we use?
Yes, I'll be glad to. Yeah,
all
no
of that
problem.
like Chinese like stuff is kind of immigrating, so now we've got like 18 different headsets, all of which have the exact same shell. But I know have different internals. Okay, thank you so much.
I'll get the good one. The reason why people ask me about my headset is because all of the audio work I've ever done since 2005 have been on this $45 headset. And there are podcasters that will spend hundreds of dollars on a microphone. I've run audiobooks through this and everything. And that's because it's hardwired. It doesn't use Bluetooth of any kind. And a lot of people are just kind of surprised by that. Go ahead, Sean.
And also to tie again on that, Amazon currently has its Black Friday / Cyber Monday deals. So that headset might be as much as 50% off. So we're talking like $20, people.
So if you want a really high quality headset, okay, go ahead. Please, Jeff, if you would now speak.
I'll just point out why all the cool kids in this class are wearing headsets. If you have a microphone and you turn your head, your voice is further or closer to the microphone, so you'd be loud and then quiet, whereas here it's always the same distance. So, and by the way, I work from home, so I have noise canceling, so I can't hear the noise when my wife decides to put something with zippers in the dryer behind me. It drives me crazy without the headset. So, anyways, Shailene asked what she needs. And reality is, Shailene is on a mission to help women going through divorce. So she needs people to elevate her in that space because she wants to provide financial advice. And I'm going to connect dots more clearly because I feel like people don't get strategy. Janine's a financial first responder. She is a guru of all things. The other thing I would point out is Shailene has an offer in her inbox to have somebody promote and host a virtual workshop for $8,000. Discuss.
So I just threw in the chat that I clicked on the link that Sean put in, and 52% off on those headphones today, and it's $19.99. $19.19. So there you go on those headphones, and we can all look like we've been branded by Janine.
And what's so wonderful about branding is I showed Rich, this is kind of where I'm going with our branding, is that, and he's like, no, we are not doing that. We want the real headset. We want the the spider hunters on there. We don't want those. And so he is currently
This
working
is
on
the only way I've ever known you.
like he's like, don't ever take your headphones off. I won't recognize.
It's not lost on me that Sean's wearing the same ones, that you're always in that same blue,
Right.
what you're wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Not lost on me. Branding people, by the way. So that's what I do. I'm a branding designer. I help companies work with the face of their business. Listen, we're all business people, right? But not really. What we do is what we do. And we had to turn that into a business. So not only are we an expert at what we do, we've had to become business people and bookkeeping and do all the nuances of being in business. So, it's no wonder that people have a hard time with their branding. So first and foremost, emotional connection. Does your business create an emotional connection? Now, obviously, Margaret, there's emotional connection right in built into what you do, obviously. But if you're like me, branding, what's the pain point that I'm going to help you overcome? So when you can connect with somebody on an emotional level, you are you've hit it right on the head. Secondly, authenticity. People can smell bullshit a billion miles away. So when you are your true self, when you are being as real as you could possibly be, that's when you show up in just that way. And that's what people want to do business with. And lastly, the thing I want to talk about today is thought leadership. One of the things I talked about, a bunch of weeks ago, was the realization I had with authoring my own book, was that what distinguishes one from about being an expert is just by stepping into that role. By declaring it. You declare you're an expert, and all of a sudden you're writing a book. So now you have a book on that. So you're an expert. So when you can create yourself to be the leader in your business, putting out tips, giving out information, not looking for something in return, then you become the authority. And that's what people look for in business. And that's what I got today, coming to you from the island of Manhattan. Thanks all. Always fun to be at Camp Janine.
Camp Janine. Well, and this is Rich's book, his buyer's book of business branding. Okay, critical brand decisions, blah, blah, blah. And I love it because he talks a lot about how he grew up. So it's kind of got a little bit of memoir, but also perfect tips on it and areas where you can write notes. I'm a big scholar. I like having places where I can write in my books. I constantly am doing that, much to many people's dismay. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're writing in that book. I'm like, I don't know how else to study and read if I want something. So anyhow, so not to be outdone, Jeff, go ahead and chat with us a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself, since you and I have worked together for years and years and years now. yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and how we can help you today.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my universe because I realized myself doesn't matter. So I have a universe of amazing humans who love serving other humans. And so I am focusing on curating my community. And I'll tell you exactly what I'm looking for help with. I want to meet people who self identify as mavericks, visionaries, or philanthropists. So those are the people I want in my big thinker universe. And for anyone who wants to play at a high level, those are the kind of people I hang out with. And I highly recommend I'm going to give my 3-second networking tip as well, Janine, just to give a
Sure.
little bonus. Surround yourself with amazing people who've already done the things you want to do. I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to point fingers, but I've spent a lot of time helping people. In my world, they're called carps, and I love helping the carp. The problem is, if you spend all your time and energy helping carp, you don't get to play with the dolphins. So my world is about dolphins, and for the record, Janine and Rich and Shailene, you are part of my world and my universe, and I'm grateful for that. Going forward, I'm only meeting dolphins. And Janine, my big aha, my tip is if you've got a book, give it to the carp. They'll be more than happy, and they'll solve their own problems or they'll stay exactly where they are. It's up to them. But for my community, it's going to be a fun universe to play in. So if you know anybody, the keywords are maverick, visionary, philanthropist. That's my MVP community.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will make sure we get people to help you out with that. So Wendy posed a really great question, and that's something a theme that I would definitely like to talk about. There is a difference. Let's talk about the 3 different areas of marketing. Now, you can break it down even more than this, but these are just kind of the basics that we're going to chat about real quick. The first one is people will talk to you about branding. That branding is very important, and Rich can share more about that in a moment. But there's a branding section of marketing, and a lot of people try to do that too quickly instead of doing a little bit of a testing first. And some people get really big into A/B testing and all that. That's way too big. No. We're just talking about where you chat it up with a couple of people and figure out where you want to go. So that you need somebody to be kind of a mirror. So you would want to have a conversation with Shailene or Margaret or Jeff before you would hire a Rich to help you with your branding. And that is so that you could ask them questions. That person can mirror you. And the questions would be like, what are the colors that you see that I wear the most? What are the colors that you think of when I am wearing those? Blah, blah, blah. And then you start then honing down, because if you start to try to brand too quickly before you've had conversations with people, like Rich said, we're used to doing so much that it can get in the way. So go ahead, Rich, chat with us about that.
Just on your point about sharing it with your couple of peoples or whatnot, I highly suggest that you limit it to a very small number of people, because everyone's going to have an opinion. And what you're going to end up with is, that's actually, I mentioned this in my book, it's called sympathetic branding, because nobody wants to hurt your feelings. Everyone's going to be like that, and everyone's going to be like, anyway, it's really okay. And that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden you end up with something that is not authentic. So pick your 2 or 3 besties, ones that will stab you in the front, as opposed to, tell you the truth. So just, keep it simple.
Right. And that's what I love about Shailene. She starts raising her hand. I'll be that friend. And I highly recommend, the friends that, you don't know if you really want to introduce them to sensitive people, because they tell it like it is. The people right in your world that are very direct and very upfront. So definitely chat with them and get an idea. But the whole purpose is, what is it that you like? And what I have found is I have been in the marketing world and had marketing people talking to me since 1996. Okay, that's when it started for me. And I actually had the Oprah Winfrey Show reach out to me and want to have me on one of their shows. Now, I was not a good fit. When I looked at that show, I totally saw why the producers were like, thank you for your time. No, it was totally appropriate. But talking to them, it was fascinating, because they were the first ones to tell me, oh, Janine, that's, we like your stuff, but it's just not sexy enough. Now, it was meant as a joke. Okay. We were talking, we were peers, they were laughing, I was laughing. but I understood what they meant. Where they were headed with their show and their program, they were looking for a very specific stylized type of person. I am not that way. So what happens with marketing is they're trying to present you in their best possible light for whatever they're producing. And there are adjustments that have to be made in that mindset. We are not in that level or that field. And so that's why it's very important what Rich is talking about when it comes to your branding, that you stay very much in alignment with who you are authentically. Because if you get too much into the media area and all that, then that's where they start honing and focusing your message a little differently. And you want to be really true and authentic to yourself, because right now, marketing agencies are laying off people in droves because what used to work no longer works. And they're having to readjust to the fact that you have TikTok and YouTube shorts and stuff like that. And the people that are getting the most traction happen to be the ones that, well, there's 4 major sections, but the section we're going to focus on are the ones who are just saying their message and are being the most real, and they're staying true to their message. So you want to nail your message and have that honed to a razor's edge, and then you say it until you are sick of saying it, and then you say it for another 10 years. Okay. And that's how the 60-40 principle got me where I am today regarding that, because I still talk about it, still teach it, even though I've been teaching it for almost 30 years. Okay. So go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, kind of taking it from a slightly younger generation, because I've seen on some of the newer stuff with the YouTube, TikToks, and all that fun stuff. We had a streamer a while back who had a Twitch stream with, like, I think it was 15,000 people watching, and he literally watched paint dry with them for 3 hours as like a social experiment. And they just sat there and chatted the whole time, but it was just literally a stream with this guy being authentic, no webcam, just audio, just sitting there watching a video of paint drying on a wall with 15,000 people, and apparently peaked like all the charts. So yeah, what used to work no longer seems to work, and now the random stuff seems to work way better. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. So people just being who they really are and doing things their own way. Like when my kids talk to me about Twitch streamers or people on TikTok they like, or YouTube shorts, when I go and I look at these people, I'm like, oh yeah, these people are just upset about a certain thing, and their message is, we are going to solve it doing X, or we are going to do this process, or they lead, they just charge ahead, whether people want to come along or not. And it's amazing how communities are built around that. So that's why it's so important when it comes to your marketing. The branding element needs to really be in alignment with what you enjoy and what is in your core value. The second thing is the difference between marketing and promotion. Okay. Marketing and promotion gets people tied up in knots because they don't know which one they're doing. And that is, you need to have a marketing budget. Marketing is when you actively are seeking clients and you are willing to pay to get those clients. Now, my marketing budget is in my direct mail campaigns. I'm a big user of send out cards. If you're interested in using send out cards and want to see what they've done in the past, definitely connect with me. I'd love to bring you on my team, because I only focus on business owners, because I've come up with systems that work very effectively for send out cards. And I actually have taught other people that have hired me to do contracts in totally different arenas. And they're also like, teach us your send out card system and what you do for your people, because it's authentic. It's very much in alignment with my personality, and people adore the cards. Like, I have people that have moved, and in my recent newsletter, I said, hey, if you want a holiday card from me and you're not getting cards, thank you, Jeff, and you're not getting cards, you need to reach out to me, because I've lost your address. I had 5 people within 2 hours of that email going out going, this is my new address. I want a holiday card. Get me back on your system. So my email list is not that large. It's only 658 people. But I have a direct mail campaign of 1,200 people. So I am in people's mailboxes. And so I don't look good according to a marketing email marketing process, because I'm not over 1,000 in my email list, which is what they kind of talk about. But I'm in people's inboxes. And the wonderful thing is that these cards that I send out have a 99.8% open rate. All right. I don't have to worry about my open rates, because if it's a card coming from me, it's now not in white envelopes. It's now in these light blue envelopes that are going out. And those light blue envelopes, people see that, they know it's me, and they open them up. Even if it's a year later. I had somebody open up a Happy Independence Day card a year later. Thank you very much. Just because of that. So I thought that was a funny thing. Anyhow, those are some of the fun and games that you can have with those cards. So if you're interested in direct mail, that is where my marketing budget, when I first started, I was spending $37 a month. I am now spending upwards to $160 a month, but we're moving into the holidays, so it's $500 a month for 3 months. And that's my marketing budget right now. So before you do Google Ads, before you do Facebook, let's chat a little bit about direct mail marketing, because you're talking to your people in that regard. So that's marketing. Marketing is when you spend money to bring in business. Okay. The second thing is promotion. That's podcasting. So for author podcasting, in my book, Author Podcasting, How to Be a Standout Guest, that is all promotion. That is where you're going on, you're talking to somebody on a podcast, a radio show, television appearances. Margaret did with TED Talk. That's all promotion. Okay. You're not necessarily paying except the expense of getting there. And you want to be able to be seen. You're getting your message out there. And what I find happens is a lot of people get promotion confused with marketing. They will promote, but they will not market. And that is something that I find a little bit disturbing for folks. Okay. We want to make sure that you promote and market at the same time. All right. So those are the 3 areas: branding, promotion, and marketing. When we talk about strategy, there's nothing that will cause people to want to yawn more than talking about marketing strategy. It's boring, blah, blah, blah. So marketing people have used all kinds of other terms rather than talking about your marketing strategy. And that is disastrous to me, because then it muddies the water. People don't know what they're doing when it comes to their business. It can be very confusing. Do not get strategy and tactics confused. Now, I came from a military background. My dad was in the Navy. The marketing, for me with marketing, what is the strategy? The strategy is how you are moving all the pieces of your business in a direction for your customer, for your client. What is that journey that you're going to take them on? And you hear this a lot in marketing. What's the customer journey? What's the customer journey? And you hear it so much you want to just puke. At least I do. I get very nauseous. But unfortunately, that is what we are trying to do. And the thing is they make the assumption that your customer will walk that journey the entire way. No, you have people all the time. They are all in. They jump the customer journey, and you can sit there and you can scream like me. I spent 90 days working on a customer journey, and I have people jumping the journey all the time. They just go to the sell feature, but it's because I have a strategy and I know what my customer journey is and where I want to take my people. And I'm so crystal clear on where I want to take my people that they jump the journey and they just buy. Okay. And so that is where we want you to be in your high ticket offers, whether it's $2,500, $5,000, or like what I'm doing now, which is I'm in contracts where I have $1,000, $135,000 to $225,000 contracts that I am working with people on. Okay. So those, you have to be very clear on where you're taking your people. Okay. So that is the strategy. What are tactics? That's when I hire Jeff to help me write the authority platform book, the 12-hour book, or I hire Rich to help me with branding, or I am emotionally in distress. I can't even think about my business. I need to hire Margaret to help me get over whatever emotional hurdle that I have, because just because she's a grief counselor, grief coach, doesn't necessarily mean that she can't help me with some other speed bump emotionally that I have in my world. So these are the type of things that's where you bring in tactics, and that's tools, people, or resources. And your resources may be your community. And when it comes to being an author, that's where I talk about beta readers, how you bring in beta readers as part of your tactics that will eventually help you with your strategy. Okay. So those are some ideas. That's enough of Janine speaking. I'm going to open it up to anybody else. How would you like to add to this conversation on branding, promotion, or marketing from your own perspective, please?
I will chime in, and of course, it'll be themed around relationships. I think one of the things I'm really, really getting clear on is how important relationships are. And I can't stress enough, I had somebody at a networking event said, well, who do you think I should meet? And I can't tell you how much that hurt my head, because if you don't know who you are and you don't know who you need to meet, how am I going to figure it out? Possibly. So one of the things I'm building into my world is I don't take on a client unless they've talked to Rich Buyer, because if they can't get that clarity, I don't have anything in my tool belt that'll help them. So the thing is, the other piece is you're amplifying who you are. I believe in authenticity. I believe in relationship based marketing. And if you're uncertain, guess what message you're putting out to the universe? You're saying, I think I can help you. I don't know. And what I loved about Rich's book, and by the way, that was one of my most joyous projects. He is authentically him. He is a Hebrew hottie. He's got some Hebrew ha-has, and he is weird as you can imagine. And my soul and his soul said, wow, where have you been all my days? It's just, we're all part of the same big puzzle. We just, lost our place in the box. And Janine, I think you bring out the puzzle pieces and you help us find where we belong. But the reality is, I can write a book in a day if somebody knows who they are. If they don't know who they are, the book is a struggle. And here's a spoiler alert: no matter what you do in the beginning, will amplify with every stage. So if you're at a level 1 uncertainty in the first stage, you're going to be a level 10 in the second stage. And by the time you get to marketing, your uncertainty is a level 100. So think about what Janine talked about as an amplification process. I now have a screening filter, and if somebody doesn't want to work with Rich, guess what? They're saying no to Jeff. So,
and when you hear the term power partners, that's kind of what has happened with Open Friday Coffee. Jeff and Rich show up almost every week along with Matt. We've all worked together. We send people around. Those are power partners. And we actually do filter people that way. If you don't want to work with this personality type, then you're not our people, because we are heart-based entrepreneurs who are very service oriented, and the prices that we charge are reasonable for where we live and the costs that we have, and we know our worth. And so we're not going to be a part of a Black Friday discount. Why? Because we do not operate in volume. All right. We are not in high volume sales. We are in highly customized processes that will help you move forward with wherever you are in your business. So anywho, that is how we operate. So thank you very much, Jeff, for reminding me about the powerful playful partners.
play is important. I don't
Play
work.
is important. I agree. And if you have any
you are a
podcasters-
sacred clown, my dear.
I know. Yeah. So if you happen to have podcasters that you really like, or yourself, you have your own podcast and you're listening to this, we're going to put in the chat the I just lost it. February 22nd. We have the Podcasters Playhouse. There we go. Playground. The Podcasters Playground. I knew we had play in there somewhere. And that's on February 22nd. And so Jeff has put it, thank you, Sean, for putting it into the link. And what we will do is we will email you a couple of times a month until February, when we will have stuff that you can be a part of. What we are going to do is talk to you about how to be profitable. Yes, Rich.
You came up yesterday in conversation in the car ride out to Thanksgiving.
Uh-oh, I'm sorry.
In a really good way. And this is something I just want to remind everybody about: being an entrepreneur, being in business for yourself. We tend to be in charge of everything, and we just tend to take over. And it happened yesterday. I was in car service, and the guy was going to make a turn off the highway, and I'm like, "No, stay on the drive, stay on the drive." And he had something that was going to a shortcut that was going to save us 5 minutes or something like that, which I had never seen before. And so my partner, who has a real job, with a boss and a paycheck and everything, and I was telling him about how we as entrepreneurs just tend to do that, and it's kind of built into our nature. And so there I am, eating crow in the back seat of the car. Like, I'm sorry, I won't open my mouth again. Oh. So it's okay. Just give yourself a little space and credit on that.
Branding, marketing, and promotion. It's very easy to get super confused on where you are unless you have a strategy outlined for yourself. And I love it that we're talking about this toward the end of November, because you have all of December to figure something out. Don't try to start anything new until you hit about January 8th. Okay, around January 8th or 9th, that's when you want to launch whatever is new. You need some time to kind of work through this as you go through the holidays. And as Margaret will be more than happy to talk about, you do not make major decisions during the holiday season. I do not know why people insist on doing this, but you don't make the major decision until after the holidays are done, due to the emotional upheaval of having to do with family and friends and activities that are not in your normal sphere the rest of the year. You are in an altered state, literally, in Q4. And so that's why a lot of businesses take that full 2 weeks, some 4 weeks off between whatever the winter solstice around December 21st, all the way through what some people call the epiphany of January 15th, because there is just so much that's happening that they know people are not going to be in their mind, right? So everyone needs to take that moment, take a deep breath, as Jeff says. So take a deep breath, realize that people are running around kind of crazy. And one of the things I love is one of my children happens to work at a local grocery store. And you can always tell what's happening, whether the weather is changing or there's some bigger major event or whatever, by the speed with which people are demanding that he get them through their line as fast as possible. And it's a fun psychological experiment in that regard. When you see it, trying to get everybody to just kind of calm down. And so as entrepreneurs, if we're going to take charge, I take charge of the line I'm standing in at the cash register. And I usually start making jokes about things or saying things out loud to people and getting a conversation going just to ease the tension and to give the cashier a little bit of a break from people all staring directly at them. How fast are they scanning me through the line? So anyhow, anybody else have any suggestions regarding branding, marketing, or promotion from their own experience that they'd like to share? Go ahead, Shailene.
I took myself off mute.
Bravo. Well done, dear.
I know. I'm like, where's my card? It's in my she shed. That's why I don't have my card, because it's in the she shed. Branding, promotion. For me, I'm going to connect it to what Jeff said. Relational. Get to know people, come on networking groups, do this kind of thing. Because as you get to know people, then they're going to help promote you, because they're going to know that you're actually the kind of person that they want other people to work with. So for me, that's why I've started inviting people to this particular networking group, because I'm like, okay, this is a really good group of people, and I like the people here, and I want them to come here and get to know the people here. So because these are people who will actually really help them. Mm-hmm. Like who actually can, and they're not there to take anything from you. They're actually there because they care about it. So, so networking, and that was taught to me by Jeff.
With his 1 minute networking tip that he gives us. And then Wendy or Margaret, is there anything you care to share, or any questions that you might have that we can chat about with you?
I think for me, with creating the marketing and the strategy, it really was important to niche down, because everyone kept saying to me, who do you help? I'm like, well, I help women. Like literally women are my client. But then it was like, well, what kind of women? And really getting down into that niche. And I found that depending on where I was at and as my business was growing, things were changing. So just really giving myself permission to allow that change to happen, so that I can eventually get where I'm going to be the most solid. Now I'm pretty much there now, but it was a journey to get there, because originally I started out thinking one thing, I was going to do this, right? And then that just wasn't really fit. It didn't feel right. And so it was trusting. What do you feel? What does that really feel like? You want to be there. But I think it's really just not marrying yourself to this one ideal aspect of what it is you think you should be doing, versus following your heart and doing what it is that you really want to do, and allowing yourself to just step into that space and be that person in that space. And that's when your authenticity and your brand just goes, because then you're talking from the heart. I know some of the posts that I've put out on social media have been really spontaneous posts that I've just sort of gone do this, and I've had the most interaction. So, yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. Anything you care to share, Wendy?
I got a lot of my questions answered, actually, just listening to you guys. So I think I'm good. The squirrels are running on the wheel, and I think I'm taking a bunch of notes and stuff. And so I'm gonna get together with you and work on the strategy, because I've got, just through my own experience, starting at my other company, I did all the marketing and stuff myself, and my husband's actually, he does SEO, so he he helped me too. But just a lot of the things that you talked about, I feel like I figured out a lot of things, like just going that way, but it's different to do a business like where you're selling a product. Well, it seems to me than doing like readings and stuff where it's a you know, more of a kind of personal thing. It's like sort of seems like a different venue. And so that's where I'm really kind of looking to get some help. And I think that you're the right person to help me because you're in both of those realms. So I think,
yeah, I'm in both camps. I got a foot in
Yeah.
both worlds. Yeah,
Yes.
it's true. It's true. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs like me around that have their foot in like 3 or 4 different worlds, and they're constantly pivoting. But Margaret is right. You have to niche down into something very, very specific.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is that the more specific you get, then you explode, and then you have women recommending, you know, other women recommending Margaret to them, right? And then she can still do all the things she wants to do, but in her marketing, she has to be highly specific. So author podcasting is one of my favorite books to talk about that, because I wanted to call it promotional podcasting because it works for anybody. However, I had to niche down to authors because I was doing the 99 Authors Project and I wanted to really attract authors. And what's fun is it's authorpreneurs, because every author has a book and if you can get them in that business mindset, a lot of authors didn't know they were business owners because they had a book. And so that was something that was kind of fun to go about. And then the thriving solopreneur, I niched that down to not to have a business book, but speaking to people who are a solopreneur and how do you go about creating a business that can scale based on the systems that you build out. So anyway, those are some fun things that will help you out. We've got about 2 minutes. Thank you for being with us, Wendy and Margaret.
Yeah,
Always
well,
nice.
thank you, everybody. Yeah.
And Shailene, thank you for inviting your crew with us. And then Rich and Jeff, I was going to give you each a minute each to kind of wrap us up and take us home. So Rich, if you would like to go first, please.
Wrap us up and take us home. Gosh, you know, I'm still in the throes of yesterday of the love of family and all that. Oh, I did have a question for you, Janine. That was what I forgot before. How did your pies turn out?
Oh, I had 2 fabulously glorious pies. Just don't look at the patchwork quilt of the homemade crust and you are fine, but it was very flaky. It was very good. And we're making a couple of more today. So thank you for asking. Worked out just fine.
Well, and on that sweet note.
Yeah, right. There you go. And Jeff, what do you have to share with us today?
Rich, that was sweet of you to lead me in. For the record, I believe in pie filling. I have no use for pie crust. So there we go. It all tastes the same in my belly. It doesn't matter how it looks. My big moment is we have to measure and manage what we tolerate. So my advice is create your systems for what you're going to offer to the world and how you're going to offer it. And either the world follows your systems or it moves on. That's okay.
That is a big one. And we're going to wrap that up about focus on some people say boundaries, what you will tolerate, create your systems and processes. I want to thank you all for being with us here today on this Open Friday Coffee. It was always a delight to chat with you. And we will see you next week. There's a link in the chat for how you can sign up for the next one and register with us. And we will be happy to chat with you again next week. Have a great week, everybody.